If you have a credit card and you feel like your limit is just too low, like for instance, if you have your very first credit card and it only has a $200 limit, then it is very easy to spend that $200 and then you can't spend any more on the card. So how do you increase your credit card limit? Well, it's very simple. There's a few things you can do. But first of all, I just want to talk about why you would actually want to increase your credit card limit. Now, one of the biggest reasons why most people want to get a credit limit increase is simply so they can spend more. And this can either be a good thing or a bad thing depending on how you actually use your credit card. Because if you're the type that carries over a balance and you typically pay interest, then you really don't want to be getting an increase because now you're just going to be accruing more debt, you're going to be paying more interest, and the increase isn't actually going to help your life. It's going to make it worse because I don't want you to be getting into more debt. I want you to be getting out of debt. Now, if you pay off your credit card statement every single month in full, then you're not going to be paying any interest. And therefore, a higher limit can make life quite a bit easier. Because for instance, myself, if I make a $5,000 purchase, I can just pay it off whenever I feel like it. And then because I'm not paying any interest, I'm not penalized for making that giant purchase. And this is very helpful because I have a higher limit. Because like I said earlier, if your limit is too low, like for instance, $500 and you want to make a $1,000 purchase, then you just can't make that happen without having a higher credit limit. And that is one of the biggest helpful reasons to get an increase is just because it can make big purchases a lot easier and more convenient. Now, the next reason why you'd want to get a credit card limit increase is because it can actually help your credit score if you use your credit card right because of something called credit usage. This is one of the categories inside of your credit score, and it's actually worth 30% of your entire score. So it's definitely worth paying attention to. But basically, it just has to do with how much credit you have versus how much you're using, and I'll explain how it works. So let's just say that you have a credit limit of $1,000 and you end up spending $700 throughout the month, and that's what ends up on next month's statement. Well, because you've spent $700 out of your $1,000, that's actually a 70% usage, and this can hurt your credit score because basically you want it to be at 30% or below. Because if you're lower than 30%, it's basically going to help your credit score. And if you're above 30%, then it's going to hurt your credit score. So therefore, if you have a higher limit, it's easier to spend a little bit more every single month and keep that usage lower. Because if you had a $10,000 credit limit, but you still only spent $700 throughout the month, then 700 divided by 10,000 ends up being only 7% usage. So therefore, that's going to end up helping your credit score. And that is why sometimes it's a really good thing to have a higher limit, because then it's a lot easier to keep a low usage if you're keeping your spending generally about the same. Now, if you want to know how you can get a credit card limit increase, it's very simple to do, but it's not guaranteed, but at least you can try these different steps in order to get a limit increase. The first thing you can do is to literally just call the number on the back of your credit card and ask them for an increase. Because if you do end up getting an increase, then great. And if they do say no, big deal, just try again another time. The next thing you can try is very straightforward as well, but they've got to have a pretty good website here. So just go online and then look around until you can find a request for a credit limit increase button. And if they do have that button, just click it, fill out the information, and then see what happens. You can also add what's called an authorized user to your credit card, which means that you would have a second card under someone else's name, but you would be the primary name under the account. And therefore, if you have two credit cards under two different names, technically you might get a higher limit just because you add an authorized user. But you want to be really careful here because if you are adding someone else and they're actually going to use the card, you just want to make sure that they're responsible with it because it could affect your credit score and your interest rate, everything like that, if they are spending too much and they're not paying you back or something like that. And then the last thing you can try to get a limit increase is to simply just spend more on your credit card and be more active with it, because if they start to see that you're spending more on the card, then they might just go in and give you a limit increase automatically. But the problem here is that you don't know when it's going to happen. Typically for me, I see it about every year, but that's in my experience. Now, if you really don't care about getting an increase on a specific credit card, then what you can do is just apply for another credit card, because that is always going to come with its own new increase. And that technically is going to increase your credit usage because it does add all of your credit cards together. So for instance, if you have 2 credit cards that are each $5,000 limits, then technically you have $10,000 worth of credit to spend. So if you happen to be in the market for a new credit card, then I would recommend checking out creditcards.com. I've got an affiliate link for them in the description below. So check them out if you have an interest, because they have a huge selection of credit cards that you can choose from. And basically you can just sift through the ones that are going to be better for your lifestyle, and then you can make your own choice. But that's what I would say as far as getting another credit card, is I would really only be doing that if you don't like the credit card that you're already using. And then I do want to make it clear that if you're manually trying to get a credit card limit increase, like for instance, you're calling them up or you're checking the request box online, sometimes those require a hard credit pull in order to get you the yes or the no on the increase. So if you don't want to end up getting a credit check, just stick with the automatic way of doing it, which would be just use your credit card and then cross your fingers that you'll get an increase within about a year or so.